Welcome. It's wonderful to see so many people joining. I'm mesmerized by the list over here as it starts filling in. So welcome. My name is Marcella Cox, and I'm one of the co-founders of the IFS Consultation Collective. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here today to our webinar. And as you are arriving, I see that you're putting your where you're located, and I'm located in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I'm wondering, Marielle, where are you? Where are you?
I am in Portland, Oregon. Hi, everybody.
And Paul?
Yeah, and I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So, hi. Good to have you here.
And Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm in San Diego, California, and welcome. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, so as we're all settling in and arriving and seeing all the places from around the world, and I just saw Philippines and Netherlands and Baltimore and just all over. We're joining from all over. It's just wonderful to see. We have 45 minutes and a lot that we want to cover in this amount of time. And before we get started in learning more about the Consultation Collective, I thought I would start with a little history of how we came together and the Consultation Collective developed. This program has actually been in development for quite some time. Paul, Marielle, and myself have been collaborating on IFS-focused consultation for many years through our previous group practice, the IFS Telehealth Collective. And we ran that program for about 5 years. And in that setting, what we saw was this incredible growth of our therapists that were receiving weekly clinical consultation. And we just saw this incredible learning that happened and the community that was created. So when we were thinking about how do we bring this same model to a wider audience, we wanted to really preserve two things. The first was that sense of community, but also personalized support while making it accessible to more IFS professionals around the world. And it's clear that from the chat, we are from around the world. And so really that's the driving force behind the IFS Consultation Collective is we're taking what we've learned and what we love, which is providing high quality IFS consultation, and scaling it in a way that will benefit more clinicians of various IFS levels of experience. And so we're really excited to also welcome Elizabeth into our collective as well, as we continue to grow in this new format and take this out to a broader community. And also at the foundation is our mission. Our mission really is to provide, to support actually safe and effective use of the IFS model. And we're doing this through weekly consultation with
It's a cliffhanger.
You got a frozen something
that we have on our website. So you can always go and check that out. And I think that will be posted shortly in the chat. But we're going to provide some more information about what we're providing during this webinar. And we're going to be answering not only your questions, but we have over the past few weeks as we've started to launch this program, we have been getting some questions. So that helped form what we're offering here today. The chat is going to be turned off during the webinar, and the Q&A feature is going to be turned on. So if you have a question during the webinar, I encourage you to post it in the Q&A, and then after we get through our questions that we want to answer with the trainers. Then we'll open it up for your questions. And we also have a lot of information. We also have our frequently asked questions on the website that you can also check out. Okay, so
Hey, Marcella, you did freeze for a second, and I think where it was, don't worry about it, was that I think you were going to let them know that we have this learning platform with a lot of resources on it. So it's the weekly consultation and this community platform that we're going to give a tour on.
All right. Thanks for filling that in, Marielle. I'm sorry about the glitchy connection. I appreciate you covering for me. Speaking of covering, I want to continue with what we'll be covering today. So we're going to be giving you, as Marielle started to share, the lowdown on what this service is. So in a nutshell, it's 2 weekly consultation groups. One is specific for IFS trained clinicians, therapists, and practitioners. And the other is for IFS informed therapists. And they'll each be running for 90 minutes for 4 Tuesdays, the first 4 Tuesdays of the month. We're going to dive into that a little bit further along. And I think Marielle might be sharing a little bit more about what that will look like. During our time together, we'll also get a demo of the platform, our learning platform that Marielle just mentioned, which we're really excited about. And in the platform, you'll see some exclusive resources and community spaces where you can engage with others, as well as where you'll get access to the recordings. If you can't make it to a live consultation, they will be recorded, and so you'll have access to those as well. But the heart of what we're going to be doing today is actually getting to know Marielle, Paul, and Elizabeth, and hearing from each of them around consultation and how they do consultation. And so I'm really excited to be facilitating this conversation with each of them. All right. And then lastly, we'll if you have questions about registration, we'll answer those as well. So without further ado, I am going to introduce each of them separately and ask them to unmute and say hello. First, I'm going to introduce Marielle Pastor, who is a co-founder and IFS lead trainer who's providing consultation. And Marielle was trained in the model in 1998. And fun fact, that's the same year my son was born. She also is the author of the IFS training manual and the creator of character mapping for actors, writers, and directors. So welcome, Marielle. Would you like to unmute and say hello?
I've been unmuted this whole time. Just uncharacteristically quiet.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. And you can stay unmuted. And I'm glad you did when I had the hiccup with my internet. Next, I'd like to welcome Paul Ginter, who is also co-founder and IFS lead trainer, who will be providing consultation. And Paul was trained in the model in 1990. He's also an organizational development and leadership coach, as well as an MBSR instructor. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Marcella. Yeah, it's great to be here. And, so I just want to also just shout out to have the 4 of us who have spent a lot of time throughout the years together. So it's nice to be here.
I agree with you, Paul. Nice to actually be coming together in this way. And last, but certainly not least, it is my pleasure to welcome Elizabeth Talbert, who's been an IFS lead trainer for several years, and she'll also be providing consultation. And Elizabeth has a master's of nursing, and she brings a lot of expertise in neuroscience. And a fun fact about Elizabeth is she's been an Enneagram instructor for about 30 years. And so I want to talk to you offline, Elizabeth. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Yeah. Well, hi, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here. And I want to really welcome you to this conversation and learning more about consultation.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait to get into it. Before we start those questions, I want to just say, one of the obvious attractions for our service is that we have 3 lead trainers. But I also want to take a moment to acknowledge something that's important, especially as we're looking at this from a global lens, is that those of us that are leading this, Marielle, Paul, Elizabeth, and myself, are coming from an American white middle-aged clinician lens. And we recognize that as we build this community, our perspectives and experience is just one piece of that rich diversity that we hope to cultivate. And we're really committed to creating a space that welcomes voices and identities from all over the world with different cultural backgrounds and areas of clinical expertise and levels of IFS experience. And we really are open to expanding our perspectives to co-create a consultation experience that serves the needs of our entire community. So please know that we are also here to listen and grow and make room for the wisdom that you all bring as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the questions. And so the first one, Marielle, I'd like to ask you. So you're all experienced trainers. Will you be teaching IFS, and how will this be different from a workshop training?
Yeah, it's so will we be teaching it? I think on some level, yeah, but it won't be like a workshop or a training where there's practice sessions and there's PowerPoint slides and learning objectives we have to cover and things like that. But the teaching will come really where I think over the years we found the best teaching comes from our clients. And during our level 1 back in the day, they were spread out. The sessions were spread out because it was really important to Dick that we learn from our clients. And there's really no replacement for that. And often in the trainings, there just isn't time for it in the training for people to say, well, what about in this case? And we know that clients often aren't, coming as on board, or at least they didn't used to, as on board with the model as people in the trainings are. So we will be teaching from the case consultation, and we have a way that we like to encourage people to present cases that really kind of covers a lot of different needs that we might address, whether it's the therapist parts or skills or, conceptualizing the case, where things are going well, et cetera. But, we're going to really try to tailor the teaching according to who the person is. So there will be learning on a lot of different levels, but it'll be mostly through the cases. And that's really where the refinement comes over time. So, and there's never any end to the different ways clients will present. So I think that's one of the things that's kept us all so intrigued all this time.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, right? That we're continually learning from our clients as well and what they're presenting to us. And we always need some support around how we can better help them.
And our own parts, our inner world and their inner worlds. So there's, you can learn from the books. One thing I didn't say is we're also post foundations of IFS. Like we may go through a lot of the foundations in a way, but we aren't going to be delivering that as if it's the first time anybody's heard it. We're expecting people will have done a foundations course. There's a lot of them out there. The IFS Institute has one. There's other sources, the trainings for sure. But so while we may go through a lot of the foundational things, we aren't going to be teaching it as if it's the first time somebody's heard it. And our learning platform will have other little things like the three of us in conversation about a certain topic, which will be, we've already had fun recording some of those. So there'll be other ways that you can learn if you want to dig into it, all the different things we'll be providing, but not like a workshop or a training.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. And I can't wait to watch the recording of the three of you, or several recordings of the three of you coming. Great. Well, the next question I actually want to ask each of you, and that is, what aspects of the model are you vibing with these days, just off the top of your head? And Paul, I'm wondering if you'd like to start us off.
Sure. Yeah. I have a couple of things I would just briefly say. One is, I think for a long time, I've been really interested in, here we have this model that, there's a process, a technique or a protocol that's connected to it. But I think where it gets to be really exciting is when we are following some kind of a process, but then we begin to connect with our client, or the therapist begins to connect with their client. And then it kind of takes on a life of its own. Then it becomes much more about the relationship that's happening between the person and the client, or maybe between the client and their parts, or maybe in this case it might have something to do with us as consultants, or in that role, that we're also in relationship with the person that's presenting, and in some ways even in relationship with the client that we're not even in seeing. So I think there's something that I think this model lends itself to this kind of a deepening relationships, I'll say. And then I'll just briefly say, I'm also always been really fascinated by all the subtleties of this work, and whether it's subtleties of language or timing. And I think so much of this does have to do with our growing capacity to attune to what's happening with the people we're working with. So I think I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. So beautifully said, Paul. Thanks for sharing that. Yes, it's all about relationship, isn't it? Not attunement. I'm wondering, Elizabeth, would you like to share what aspects of the model you're vibing with these days?
Well, I agree with what Paul said. I've always presented this model as a relational model, whether it's a relationship, between you and the client, or part of you and the client, or the self of you and the client, or this. There's lots and lots of relationships that happen. For me, in my experience of my own consultation, as well as what I provide to my therapist clients, is that, that I think it's such a wonderful perspective, not only for my own growth, for the growth of the client, but also in the world. I think so much of what's happening in the world needs this perspective that we have, that there are protectors out there. There are people that are being kind of run by parts that look scary. And when I get that kind of feeling, and the IFS model is powerful. It's powerful for me to let my heart open and to be in more relationship with all people. And it's not easy right now, but it's really through the IFS perspective that I find myself getting there.
That's wonderful to hear. Yes, it can be such a beautiful lens to see what's really happening in our world. And how about you, Marielle? What are you vibing on these days, model?
Well, I love the conversation so far too. It's like, oh, let's just keep going. It's a great question, because there's been so many things about it. Everything these two have said, I completely agree with. But what's been really meaning a lot to me, if I were to distill it down, is kind of how trustworthy this framework is, and also the process. And I say that because I did not expect IFS to be so central to a lot of my adulthood and my career. That isn't how I intended. It was so niche back then. But I had parts that really tested it. And I had a lot of stuff from my own life that tested this model. And I learned to see, wow, this really holds up. And in private practice, all those years, watching with this client or with that client, the framework of IFS was always at play. And I would study other things. I'm trained in other models as well, but there's something about how relational it is, how systemic it is. The world, I think, is better with every self-led decision, with every, added wisdom about what's happening. So, it just gets more and more trustworthy. And when I see clients trusting themselves through this model, it's just gratifying. They have to trust me. I trust the model. I trust my system, more often than not. And to have them learn to trust the model and themselves, it's the gold. And I've really not found anything else besides IFS. And I can hear my own, not even a skeptic, but some cautionary voice going, don't sound like you just drink Kool-Aid all the time. Because I think it really has to be discovered for each person. So that's what I think we're going to lend, is why we trust from our experiences.
So beautifully said, Marielle. Yes, learning to trust ourselves, trust the model, right? And it's through experience that trust, it's an outcome. Trust is an outcome, right, of that experience. So appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I hope our members will learn to trust themselves and the model as well through the consultation that we offer. So another question I'd like to ask each of you is, and I know that I'm pretty confident that most people here who are watching are curious about, is your approach to consultation, and to describe that a little bit more, and what approach do you take? How does that look and feel? So I'm wondering, Elizabeth, if you'd like to answer that question first.
Yeah. I love consultation. I love I think it is a collaborative process between myself and the therapist that's, bringing cases to me. It's a way in which we work together to identify kind of places where maybe the therapist has some questions, or maybe they're questions about the model, maybe they're questions about how to manage something or how to intervene in some way. So that's brought, and their wisdom about the client. They're going to know the client better than me. And I'm always learning. I'm always learning from them and their clients. And so that's very exciting to me. It's collaborative. And I think what's really important in the process is not only to address the questions and the learning edges, but also to be addressing their strengths, because there's nobody in the room with them. And there's nobody to say, gosh, that was so well done. And I think that that's a really important part of the process, is to be able to own one's strengths and one's knowledge and one's wisdom, as well as identify the learning edges.
Yes, I love that. Love someone we have that negativity bias, and we look at, okay, what's not working as opposed to what is working. So yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, Marielle, do you want to answer that question?
Well, I will add to that too. It has to be collaborative, and I think maybe something else that I would add is that I do want to have kind of a contract, similar to with the model, So I want to know what it is the person is looking for. And I want to make sure that that is at least included, because people are kind of bringing different asks to the consultation. So I want to include that. But also, like Elizabeth said, I've noticed that I'm very curious about what they think or what their creativity is saying could be possible next steps, because I think there are many good answers. And everything is kind of an experiment because the client's system has the final say about what's going to happen or what's not. But I also like to support what's the consultee's, leading edge? What do they think? And if that feels like something great, I'm going to support that. And maybe I'll give them some other ideas. And I also like to do role play and have them feel it, if at all possible. I know we all do. So it's really flexible depending on what the ask is. And again, trusting the client system in the end to tell us where things are going to land.
Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate hearing the contract, right? It's so important that we remember what that is as you're providing that consultation. And yeah, I'm hearing that self-led creativity, right? That trusting the clinician and what their impulse is as well, and seeing if that feels right. And how about you, Paul?
Well, I just want to appreciate what has been shared, because I would several things were resonating with me as you were talking about it. I'm trying to think about how I might say a little bit in addition to that. One thing is I feel like being a therapist, and especially here's this model that there's varying degrees of confidence with. I think it's a vulnerable thing to do what we do. And so one of the big things I think is at least I want to create a space that feels really supportive and kind of open to learning. And others have already said this, but I feel like, gosh, I learn a ton. So I feel like if we can create a space in which we get to learn together. I know sometimes in trainings, we sometimes make a distinction between a curious mind and a curious heart. And I tend to lean toward wanting, not that there isn't something really helpful about clarity and somehow people getting that sense of clarity about situations, but there's also, I think, something that's more important than that, which is a kind of openness to, we're in this to learn together. So yeah, I feel like that's a big part of what I want to have happen in our groups.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Well, I can just say from my experience working with you that space is created. You do bring that energy for that openness and that curiosity to spaces. Yeah. Paul, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind answering this next question that we have. Are there certain aspects of the model that you think IFS therapists tend to bring up the most, regardless of their level of experience?
Yeah, I do have some really strong thoughts about that, although I don't know if in the few moments here whether I can do justice to it. But having watched lots and lots of videotapes of people doing sessions, one of the things that I just see a fair amount is, even with really solid IFS folks, there's a way that sometimes people are not like fully accessing parts. Like there's a sense, well, there's a kind of an anxious part, but whether it's not enough sometimes fleshing out a part, or somehow even just initially connecting with it, or having it be a target part. I don't know if all that stuff makes sense to everybody here, but I think there's a way that there isn't the traction because they're kind of distantly being with the part, or maybe it floods and blends too much. That also happens as well. But I think there's something about how do you like fully make contact with a part that I think is sometimes missing in when I watch people work.
great to hear. And it kind of ties back to where we started with relationship and attunement, right? And really being able to make that connection. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I'm wondering, it might make sense right now. Oh, actually, one more question before we switch over to seeing the platform. Marielle, I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about, we have these two groups, one for IFS informed therapists and one for IFS trained therapists and practitioners. And so there's going to be a wide range of experience, right? People have with the model. How will we handle that? How will that be managed?
Yeah, because they're potentially, it's like trained or not officially trained. And well, for the most part, what we're going to be focusing on is clinical practice. So even though with the IFS trained folks, we are appreciating that for a long time practitioners were, in the trainings and have all the information. So if a practitioner has gone through the IFSI trainings, we're welcoming them into that group because we figure they've gotten a lot of the data. But we're going to be clinically focused. We're not going to be focusing so much on, something other than the mental health field and working with clients in that format. That being said, there's so much other information out there in the world on IFS. People are learning the foundations, they are practicing it, and we are interested in the safe and effective use. For us, I think because attunement has been named by all of us, and we're going to be curious about where this particular person, this consultee, what is their question? And we'll get a sense of where they think they may be stuck and what's going well and things like that. I think we're going to bring our A game, no matter where the person is in whichever group. But we may also be aware that we're not going to reference something that could come up in a training if somebody hasn't been through a level 1 training. There's just a lot of good foundational material out there. And it just takes a while to get really good at IFS. And even if you are really good at IFS, there's always more to grow through. So I think we're going to just bring our clinical experience here as well as our training experience and try to have everybody level up.
Yeah, that's great to hear how you'll meet people kind of where they're at, right, with the model and what the clinical presentation that they're working with. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to switch gears for a little bit and introduce Jen Corner, who is our operations manager. And she's one of the key people behind the scenes helping us and answering questions. And Jen, do you want to unmute yourself and say hello?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's really nice to be in this space after a long time of putting everything together. So we're so glad you're here.
Yeah. Well, it's really great to have Jen here with us too today because she's been instrumental in helping us make our vision come to life. And what she's done is she has created a brief tour of our Circle platform. And we'd like to show that to you now so you can get a sense of if you were to join, what that would look like and what's available to you. So I think, Marielle, were you going to show the video?
I have it. Let me cue it up because that was when we were doing a little tech prep before. I wasn't sure if you or I would. Yeah, so we're calling it, it is a Circle platform. That's the name of the software, but it's also something we're calling our community platform. And there's a few things there now. Starting September, when we open our doors, there'll be additional, every month we're going to add other little goodies in there. So let's see how this goes. Let me try to share here. Oh boy. Let's see. Is it looking like it's going to go?
It's looking good.
All right. Let's see.
Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to be able to show the community platform for the IFS Consultation Collective. This will be just a brief look at what it is that we are offering on this platform. When you first log in to the platform, you'll be in the announcement and news space that you can see here. Other spaces that will be of interest. The events calendar is the space where you will find a calendar with all of the consultation dates scheduled in. For example, on September 2nd, this will be for the IFS trained group. By clicking on it, I pull up the RSVP button that I can click, and that will provide me with access to the Zoom recording, or the Zoom link that you'll need to attend. The next space I'm excited to share is the Community Lounge. This is where you will connect with others, introduce yourself, get to know people, and ask any questions that are coming up for you or share anything that you're wanting to share. The Resource Library is a space that holds all sorts of different resources that we've put together for you as you're getting started. Some very practical and important, and others more fun for you to use both personally and professionally. The last space to share with you is that on the first of each month, a new space will be opening for everyone. For example, in September 1st, September Spotlight will open up, and this will be the space that holds all of the recordings for the consultations that take place that month, as well as a resource that we will be providing that goes along with that month's theme. This might be what you would see if you came into the September Spotlight after Marielle had conducted the first consultation. This is where you would go to receive the link to watch the recording. After spending these last few months building this community platform, I'm really excited that we're beginning to let members in. It's going to be an excellent place for connection and for engaging with other people who are excited about IFS. And it's a wonderful place for us to share all of these resources and content and connect people up with the consultation groups. I hope you'll join us. It would be great to have you here.
Thanks so much, Jen, for making that recording. It's really exciting to see the platform after all these months of work and putting it together. It's come alive. Yeah. I also want to add, in addition to 3 consultants and Jen and myself, who are more in the background helping out, members will also have 3 highly trained IFS clinicians to help moderate the consultation sessions, not only during the consultation sessions, but afterwards, if you had questions that you put into the area where the recording is, we'll be monitoring that and answering questions as well. As Jen showed you the lounge area, so they'll also be engaging in that lounge area. So, and the 3 moderators all worked with us at the IFS Telehealth Collective, and they are Victoria Eagle, who's a licensed clinical psychologist from California, and she's a certified level 3 IFS therapist. And Lindsay Ramsey, who's a clinical social worker from Oregon, and she's also licensed in Nevada, and she's level 1 trained. And Lynn Meland, who is a level 2 trained practitioner in Minnesota. So we're really thrilled to welcome them back to the team, and they're wonderful clinicians, and we're so grateful that they'll be offering some support to all of our members. I've also mentioned that consultation will be weekly, and as you saw in the video, that there was like Marielle the first Tuesday of the month. So we'll be offering the consultations every Tuesday for the first 4 Tuesdays of the month. So if there's a 5th Tuesday, there won't be consultation. And the rotation will be, Marielle will always be on the first Tuesday of the month, Elizabeth on the 2nd, and Paul on the 3rd. And on the 4th Tuesday, it will alternate between Marielle and Paul. And so Marielle, I wonder if we could dig into consultation a little bit more. And if you wouldn't mind sharing about a breakdown of what a group might look like, and how cases will be chosen.
Yeah, the breakdown is also on the website. I believe we've said it's basically, we'll start with a meditation to help everybody arrive. And we will have a case that we have taken a look at before. So I will look at the ones before mine. Elizabeth and Paul will do it before theirs. And again, as we've said earlier, how we approach consultation, we'll look at what the question is, and we may do role play in that. We'll definitely take questions from everyone. And it's 90 minutes. So there's some flexibility in there. There's some structure, but there's flexibility. In the case presentation guideline that we have, it's something that it's about 10 questions. You fill it out on the as a Google form. You access it through the community platform, and it gives us an idea of what you're looking for. And we are needing, at least 8 every month. And we have themes. So this first month, the theme is knowing versus doing versus being IFS, because it's a very general theme, but that's a place that we feel like sometimes clinicians can get stuck in doing IFS and knowing it versus actually employing it, talking about parts versus really engaging with them. So we will have a topic video that is already recorded for September and October, actually, where we're talking about what the theme is, what our thoughts are about the kinds of cases, help to get the inspiration going for everybody. So they submit it through the website or through the platform, and then we choose from there. I think that covers it. Yeah.
I think that covers it. And I'm just realizing we only have a few more minutes together. And so I want to answer the last 2 questions that we have, and that's the costs and how do people sign up? I want to say that we're committed to making this accessible for folks. And so what we're doing is we're offering it as a subscription. So if you subscribe for 3 months, it would be $169. 12 months, it would be $129 a month. And that breaks it down to either $32 to $38 per consultation hours, because you'll get 6 hours of consultations. You'll also have access to free resources. And so there's the area of the free resources. But each month, we're also going to be providing new resources as well. So that library will constantly be updated. And then you're going to be also be getting that moderated community, right? And if you are a part of a nonprofit agency or a group serving marginalized communities, we also encourage you to reach out to us for special pricing that we have. And as far as signing up, you would go to, I think Jen just put into the chat. Thank you, Jen. Put into the chat and join our community button on the website. We do have a special promotion code that you can use. It's called Early 25. You just put that code in by September 1st, and you'll get $25 off your first month. I know we probably didn't get to all the questions in the Q&A, and I'm sorry about that. What we will do is we will be sending out the recording as well as we'll answer those questions and put them into our frequently asked questions, because I'm sure if you're asking that question, other people will ask that question as well. So we'll send a link to our frequently asked questions page on the website as well as the recording. So you'll find answers to your questions there. And with 1 minute left, I would like to thank you all. I'm wondering if Marielle, Paul, Elizabeth, you'd like to unmute as well to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
No, so just again, we're excited, I'll say I'm excited, and think it's going to be great to get a chance to work with people and connect and learn together.
Yeah. Thanks. And thanks, Marcella, for
Yeah.
moderating this.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all for joining us, and Marcella, thank you, and Jen, and I am really, really excited about this process that we're creating together, and want to welcome you to create it with us.
Well, we appreciate everyone spending their time with us today, and we hope to see you as a member on our platform. And if you do have questions, we'll be getting back to you shortly in the FAQ. We appreciate your time today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.